Hey, thanks everybody for coming. Very terrific. Nice to see the room filled up with friends and people interested in music. It's really very heartwarming. So thank you. And we have a nice program, literally a nice program, and we're going to. It's a big. I was thinking to myself, what are we playing and why are we playing this? And it seems to be like a smorgasbord, a bunch of songs that represent the broad repertoire of jazz. And I think I called it, the Italian Renaissance had lasted about maybe 60 years and in Italy. And there are different conditions brought it forth. And I think our jazz Renaissance in the United States lasted about that long too. And even though we're still playing, so they get, there was a peak moment. And tonight we're going to play songs that represent all the moments, the very early period of jazz and the middle time and then more extended times that sort of try to push the music forward. So I think that's what we're doing. We're thinking about the program. Why are we partly I just feel like playing this song, but I thought, why do we want to play those songs? So we're going to start with a song by Fats Waller. It's called the Jitterbug Waltz. All right. Set. Thank you. Hey. Thank you. I forgot to introduce the band, although they do know each other. So it's an oldest joke. And Peter Concilio was kind enough to bring his bass and play for us tonight. And Tim Gilmore on drums. I feel very happy to have a trio that plays together regularly. Very unusual to have a group of musicians that play together regularly in the modern era.
And still like each other.
Most of the time. All right. And now we're, that song was written in the 1930s. And now we're going to play one from the 1960s by John Coltrane called A Moment's Notice. And A Moment's Notice is full of chord changes. And you have to be ready at a moment's notice. Like that's the idea. And, all right, ready? 2, 1, 2. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thanks. I was just at a moment's notice. Thank you. Yeah. I guess moving on the line. This list of tunes. I guess now we're going back. That was 1960s. This is 1950s. I'm going to play a song by one of my favorite piano players, Bud Powell, and I guess he was in a mood for a classic, and he wrote this song called "In a Mood for a Classic," and he does capture a classic mood. He's a successful composition. Yeah.
Was it classical?
Of that genre. Yeah. Bum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum. All right. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. great. I'm gonna move along in the program and play something that I wrote, and call it. It was one of the first. Actually, it's one of the first, maybe the first tune that I actually wrote and with a pencil and wrote it down. But it got reworked over the years, and now it's a tune that has time changes in it, which is different than the traditional jazz. Usually just had one time, and it was 4/4, and this has 3/4 and 3 and 7 and 11. So for your listening pleasure. And see if it makes any difference, or anybody can tell. It doesn't. Yeah. Well, we hope nobody can tell. It shouldn't. Yeah. But it's interesting. I think it's different and fun to try to push the whole form forward and try some different ways. And it's part of a movement now. I think a lot of people are playing in different time signatures, and I'm happy to give it a try. And as this one I guess I wrote for my father, who died when I was in my 20s, and it was so it came out of listening to a lot of Coltrane music at the time and Miles Davis, but it also came out of the personal feeling too. So we'll do it. 2, 1, 2, 3. Thanks. Yeah.
Wow.
Collective wow.
Is that your amp humming there? Is there?
I think it's Pete.
There it is. Okay.
It's not you. That was absolutely classical.
Yeah. And then after that, we're going to step back. The last tune was sort of blues for my father, and then the next song we're going to play is by U.B. Blake, who was well known when I was growing up. He was a famous old guy who could still play piano really well. He played into his 90s, and he wrote the song "Memories of You," and he wrote a lot of music for shows, and played in a ragtime style. And he lived a really long time, and so I remember seeing him on television. Maybe some of you guys might have done him when I was 10 or something like that. And but my mother always liked the Memories of You, so I thought she used to want to somehow, you know how mothers do that. They say, "Will you play this song?" And I sometimes would.
Funny, my mother never said that to me.
Never. Oh. Good instrument choice. Well, okay, so we'll start this Memories of You. Dude. Thank you, everybody. Thanks. Oh, thanks for supporting the group here and our memories and playing. We've got one more, then we'll take a break. We're going to play, this is switching generations again. This is maybe around 1960, 64. Coltrane was playing more, getting away from the traditional swing feeling in jazz and playing more with a kind of nod to Indian music and just not so many chords to be played all the time and more freedom. And this song it's called Spiritual, and I think it's from my interpretation, nobody told me this, but it's my interpretation, that it's spiritual like Indian music especially has, the emphasis on not so much swing and feeling good about yourself, but heading toward the spirit. But the other part of it is the spirituals of Black American churches. So I think it's both. That's my feeling of it. The song goes for both things. And I don't know who's going to correct me. All right. Sorry, we'll start. We'll do our best. Thank you. All right, thanks everybody. We're going to stand up and take a bit of a break. We're going to start with a song that it's hard to find a place where this song fits in. A song called "The Night Has 1,000 Eyes." And I was looking this song up to try to learn something about it, and it's hard to find anything about it. It was written in around 1960, and it was pop singer named Bobby V. You know who he is? All right. Yeah, did you know him with the song "The Night Has 1,000 Eyes"? All right. I listened to it. I had not heard of it.
Oh, yeah?
And then.
That's a relationship you didn't know about?
But a lot of jazz players have liked the song. Like, I don't know, Stan Getz played it, and Ahmad Jamal played it, and Sonny Rollins played it, and you can hear all that on YouTube. And everybody has a slightly different way of doing it, but there's a few things that are attractive about the song, I think. And it has some open spot in the beginning, very just a lot of open space, and then it has this real jazz thing. And so it's attractive, but we'll see if it works. See if it's a really. So we'll try to do our own version of "The Night Has 1,000 Eyes." But this is funny. Like if you'd read this, does it look like the night has 1,000 eyes? It looks like the meat has 1,000 eyes. Doesn't it? So now I can't think about anything but that.
I don't think I'd order that if it was on the menu.
Well, surprise ending. Yeah.
Surprised us.
Yeah. Me too. Now we're playing another song that I wrote that has different time changes in it. There's a 3-4-5, 3-4 time, 4-4 time, and 5-4 time, and they go around in a happy way, like a merry-go-round, I hope. And you can hear these things revolving, or you can pay no attention. And it's both are interesting approaches, I think. But wrote this song for a young girl I knew named Alix, who wanted to be a dancer, and she told us she had a dream that she wanted to be a dancer, and would we help her out in her project? And she did become a dancer, and so I felt good about the song and nice about her. And, fun to play. Oh, it was nice to hear. Yeah, no, it's fun. So we'd. Oh, okay. This is a good. This is a change of pace. This song called "A Wayward Plaint," Plaint, and it's was written by the Dennis Sandoli, that who was my music teacher in Philadelphia years ago, and he a great teacher. He didn't write really very much, but he put most of his musical energies into teaching. And but I really like this song, and it brings out unusual qualities whenever I play this with anybody. It everybody plays a little differently than they did on other songs. So that's a warning. All right. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Now something completely different. It's another revolving time change tune that I wrote in honor of one of my heroes, Noam Chomsky. And it's fun to have a song written for Noam Chomsky. And he's everybody send a prayer to Chomsky. He's 95 and hanging on by a thread, and but who knows? Yeah, but he's a great contributor to world civilization and culture, and so it's fun to write a song called Chomsky, and see what you think, and it's let's see what happens here. Okay. 1, 2, I'll count to 4. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Good. It's fun to play. A challenge. Nice bass playing. Yeah. Yeah. It's fun to play these tunes with the changes like that. You have to really be on your toes. It keeps changing, and if you don't change at the right time, there you are. In space. No, it takes a lot of attention. Now we're going to play one that takes a different kind of attention. We're going to play a song by perennial inspiration, Charlie Parker. That this is a tune that's called "Back Home Blues." And written, I think, in the late 1940s. That's my understanding. 2, 1. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging in and being such a great audience. That's much appreciated. And we got one more tune we're going to play. It's not a tune. It's a song. It's got a couple names, and it's John Coltrane, I think, is the one who composed it. But it's sometimes called Red Planet, and sometimes it's called Miles's Mode. And it doesn't remind me of Miles Davis much, or I don't know about the Red Planet part. It's hard to tell. But it's a tune that he wrote using between C and C in the octave. There's 12 notes, and in this song he used 12 in a row. He used all 12 notes only one time, and then did it backwards. So it's a cool tune construction. It's like a mirror. So you do it one way, and then it goes the other way, forward and backwards. And it has, so in the spirit of the evening of different kinds of music that we're playing, I would say this is one that pushes towards, well, it's got every note. So there's no wrong note. The song has every note, so you can play every note. And it sort of has the foundation notes, but we'll try, it's one to try to have fun with. So I thought I could use my melodica on this, and we'll play Red Planet. All right. Two, three. Thank you, and thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Again, I'm very appreciative, and thanks for being a wonderful bass player. And, thank you. And fantastic on drums. Like I hear something new every time. And the group, we've been playing together for a while, but I keep being surprised and pleased by by your playing. So thank you, and I'm surprised by the audience, and thank you too. So that's it for tonight. Thank you for being here.